In the Middle East, on the contrary, the religion is the first and most important criterion to evaluate the person. In an Islamic environment, if you are a Muslim, you're one of us. If you're not Muslim, go to hell. And if you don't go, we'll send you to hell quickly. Within Sunnis, if you are a Shia, go to hell. Within Shia, Sunnis, to the same place. Okay? Because your religion and your sect is the most important criterion to evaluate who you are and what you are, especially what you are. If you are a Jew, forget it. I would like to speak about the culture of the Middle East. And culture, I mean not only literature and poetry. I'm talking about everything. Like in the word Western culture. Western culture is everything. Western culture is democracy. Western culture is how we behave to each other, how we drive in the streets, what are the relations between people, between men and women, between a child and his parents, between us and the authorities, how to understand media, how to say, okay, this is what I mean by culture, everything, which actually controls our life, relations with each other. And this is actually the culture. In the Middle East, they also have culture, which is profoundly different from the culture in this country. Just to give you a little example of the difference. Here, I would like to talk about two characteristics of the American society. One is the fact that this society is built or is actually based on the individual. Each and every one of us, since the minute which he or she achieves financial independence, means works, he or she, no, as of now, he includes she. Okay? We passed it. Ever since he stands on his economic legs by his own, he shapes his life by himself. He lives wherever he can, wherever he wants. He befriends with whoever he chooses, marries whoever he wants, works wherever he wants, and manages his life without the refrigerator of mommy, without the washing machine of mommy, without the daddy's car, and without daddy's credit card, right? Until he or she achieves financial independence, he or she depends on mommy's fridge, mommy's washing machine, daddy's car, and daddy's credit card, okay? And the individual is actually the cornerstone of the society. In the Middle East, it's totally different. The cornerstone of society is not the individual, it's the group, the family, the clan, sometimes the tribe. The individual directs his life according to what the group, the collective which he lives in, wants him to do. In very few cases in the Middle East, people live as individuals. It could be in Beirut, in the Christian areas, which Christians are much more westernized and adopt Western concepts, especially of individualism. But in most parts of the Middle East, the group thinking is much more powerful than it is here. Here you don't consult with your cousins where to live or with whom to get married. You never do it with your cousins. In the Middle East, your uncles determine whether you can marry your girlfriend or not, because the uncles of both sides, the groom and the bride, have to agree to the marriage. What kind of society? This is a society of the Middle East. People here don't understand it, don't get it. That the group thinking in the Middle East is way much more powerful, way much more influential, way much more significant than it is here. Here, I don't know if there is something which is called group thinking. This is one thing. The second thing is the role of religion. Here in this country, of course, these are Jews, these are Christians, these are Muslims, but religion is not the issue. You go to a doctor not because he's a Christian or Muslim or Jew. You go to a doctor because he knows what to do with your problem, medical problem. It could be anything, regardless of his religion. People don't, most cases, don't take his religion as something which influences the patient's decision whether to go to the man or not. In politics, also, both Kamala Harris, and Donald Trump have Jewish relatives. She is married to a Jewish man, and his daughter is Jewish, and his grandchildren are Jewish. Was this any issue in the campaign of both? Nobody made an issue out of it, as much as I noticed. Mitt Romney is Mormon. Evangelicals do not like it so much. But it was not an issue. People evaluated the candidates according to what they are, not according to the religion. Because religion is in the margin. People know, but it doesn't, it's not something which makes a difference for people. Joe Lieberman, a Jewish Orthodox Jew who was almost vice president in this country. Okay, also. In the Middle East, on the contrary, the religion is the first and most important criterion to evaluate the person. In an Islamic environment, if you are a Muslim, you're one of us. If you're not Muslim, go to hell. And if you don't go, we'll send you to hell quickly. Within Sunnis, if you are a Shia, go to hell. Within Shia, Sunnis, to the same place. Okay? Because your religion and your sect is the most important criterion to evaluate who you are and what you are, especially what you are. If you are a Jew, forget it. Okay, so this is some difference which people here do not understand. And because of this misunderstanding, many mistakes are being made by American politicians when they try to solve all kinds of problems in the Middle East. And if we really want to understand the culture of the Middle East, we have to take in account that this culture actually is made of three main vectors. Imagine three horses are pulling a wagon to different directions. One this direction, one this direction, one this direction. What are these vectors? The Middle East history is a history of the desert. After all, 98% of the Middle East, anything from Morocco in the west, all the way to Iraq in the east, from Syria in the north, all the way down to Yemen in the south, 98% of the space is desert, like Nevada. Dry, arid area, which the average temperature in the summer is 50 degrees centigrade in the shade. Something which a human being, if he tries to live in, he has to be attached constantly to a source of water. Otherwise, evaporates. And in the Middle East, if you have a source of water, you have to defend it, because other groups whose water are exhausted, now they are looking for a new source of water. And they will fight against you in order to take your water, because otherwise they will die. Therefore, since human beings started to live in the Middle East, and I'm talking about maybe hundreds of thousands of years, they are in a struggle for the water, because it's a desert. Therefore, you cannot live as an individual in the desert, because the individual is weak, while the group is strong. You must live as a group in order to defend your source of water. And the most consolidated, the most powerful group is the family, because the members of the family are committed to each other with the ties of fraternity. Therefore, the group always will be the father and the sons. And after a generation, it will be the grandchildren, the cousins. After another generation, it will be the second cousins, and so forth. What do we get? Extended family, clan, tribe. Okay, the name doesn't make any difference. The difference is made by the essence of this group. And to live as a tribe or a clan has rules. The first and most important rule is loyalty. A clan cannot allow any collaboration of any of its members with the enemy. And the others who live on that hill or in that valley near us are the enemy, because if their water will be gone, where are they going to do? Where are they going to go? To us, to take our water. Means they are either potential enemy or actual enemy, because they once tried to do something to us and we had to fight against them. So the other, with a big O, is the enemy, almost by definition, in this kind of area. Collaboration with the enemy is punished by tashmis. Tashmis in Arabic means, it's based on the word shemesh. Shams in Arabic means if they catch you after you talk to them, means you gave them our secrets where to attack us, they will send you naked to the sun. And within minutes, you fall, and the eagles already waiting for your collapse in order to have good lunch out of you. And the wolves or the fox, whatever they're in the desert, are waiting also for the lunch. So this is your punishment. They will not kill you. They just send you to the wilderness. You marry your daughter within the tribe because you don't give your daughter to the enemy. And the cost of marriage within the clan is tremendous when it comes to genetic problems, which are perpetuated with this kind of marriage within the clan. If they kill one of us, what will we do? Kill one of them in order to keep the balance between the power of our power and their power. And if we don't take revenge, the next murder is only a matter of time. Means we have to deter them. Another thing, your daughter fools around with boys, what will be her punishment? Honor killing. In Arabic, it's called ras lal-ar, means washing or rinsing the shame. How do they rinse the shame? By the blood which will come out of her neck when she will be slaughtered. This is how you wash the shame. And these are rather problematic rules and habits, but this is how it works. However, to live as a tribe has also some benefits. For example, if I'm a member in a tribe or in a clan, if I break a leg and I am in bed and the leg is tied up, everybody will come. One will come to take my kids in the morning to the school because I cannot drive. One will come in the afternoon to bring them back from school. One will come and we look in the fridge at home to make sure that we have food at home. And if not, he will go and buy and send his wife to cook because my wife is busy with me. And another one will come to run my business in order not to go bankrupt. And another one will come, everybody will come to see what is not being done yet, and they will do it. Not because I'm asking them, because that's how it is. Because we are the same clan. So if somebody is in a problem, like myself with a leg tied up, so everybody will come to help because I need it, not because I'm asking. And when I recuperate, I will do this to others who are in a problem. And if somebody, let's say, hurt somebody and he has to pay compensations and he doesn't have the money, everybody will come and throw a check as much as he can give. Why? That's how it works. And he doesn't have to ask people to support him. Once they know that he has to pay and they know what is economic situation, they will come and give. Because commitment keeps them together as a group. You know what? I'm not sure that this kind of life is so bad because it's actually a trade. You give up on your individualism, you give up on your privacy, you give up on your personal interests, but you gain the support. You will never fall financially or any other form. You will be always supported by the group. I'm not so sure that this is a bad trade-off. For example, we know in our societies, somebody could die at home, nobody knows, and after a week when the neighbors start to smell, these things happen. It cannot happen in a society which everybody knows all the time what happens with everybody because everybody is involved with each other. So this is the kind of society which I'm talking about. This is what I mean by group thinking, because the group is the important, not the individual. And this culture, with all its pluses and minuses, prepares in the Middle East for who knows how many millennia since human beings started to live in the desert of the Middle East, way before religions came to the world. And this culture is engraved into the societies of the Middle East until this very day. How do I know? Even in Israel, a modern state with 20% Arab population, we do see tribal behaviors until this very day. Although they are in friction with the Jewish liberal society for 76 years since the state was established, yet you can see honor killing, and you can see chains of revenge, blood revenge, unfortunately, means tribal phenomena still prevail, even in Israel, in spite of the friction between the Arab society in Israel and the Jewish society. This is how powerful this tribal heritage is. 14 centuries ago, only 14 centuries ago, which is a very short time, a guy named Muhammad, who lived in Mecca, decided to put an end to the bad phenomena of tribalism. And he came with a new scheme of life, which is called Islam, which will unite all the Arabs under one umbrella, because now they will have one deity, unlike the idols which every tribe had, different idols, different deities, different beliefs. Now we will have only one belief which will unite us all to be one Islamic nation. We'll be brothers of each other, and this will put an end to the bad phenomena, killing, fights, and struggles over the water. Now, since we are all brothers and sisters, because we are all Muslims, now we can live with each other in peace. Great idea. Really, great idea. The meaning was great. The idea could bring an end to the feuds. Whereas the problem, it failed. Because until this very day, you can see clans fighting each other just as they did before Islam came to the world in order to correct these problems. Not only this, we all know about the Sunni Shiites rift inside Islam. What are they fighting about? What is the essence of this struggle? It is a fight between two families on the succession of Muhammad, who was the legitimate successor when Muhammad died in the year of 632 CE. Until this very day, they are killing each other en masse on this question. You might remember in the year of 2000, there were the elections here between George W. Bush and Al Gore. Remember? And the elections were even. Only Florida was the tipping point. Florida also was almost half and half. And they had some hundreds of ballots which were poked in the wrong way. And I went to the Supreme Court to decide. The Supreme Court sat on this issue, day or 2 days, and I decided that George W. Bush won the elections because they won in Florida. And America had the president for 4 years and then another 4 years, and nobody tried to delegitimize George W. Bush based on the results of the elections of 2000. Okay? Because America has a Supreme Court, and Supreme Court decided what they decided. Imagine that the American nation is divided to two parts, 25 states and 25 states. And this one part backs George W. Bush, and the other one backs Al Gore. And these two parts are fighting each other, an all-out war for 14. This is the rift between Sunni and the Shia. Exactly. The succession. Okay? Means that tribalism, since the two clans are fighting each other until this very day, or this is how it began, is something which shows that Islam is an idea which was meant to abolish the clannish phenomena, actually failed. Yet it succeeded in other things. People that believe in Islam, people who would fight for Islam, as we see today in the jihad against us. And Islam has its shortcomings, definitely, but Islam also successes, especially to spread itself all over the world, as it does for centuries since the beginning of Islam. Many in the Middle East side with, go after the Islamic issues, and they push aside the culture of the clan. And this is the second culture. Means the tribalism pulls the Middle East to one direction. Islam pulls it to the different direction. I would say negates the tribal culture in many issues. And these are two horses which pull the Middle East to different directions. And the third one is modernism. Started to come to the Middle East more or less 220 years ago. Until then, the Middle East was in the Middle Ages. Started its march to modernism 220 years ago when Napoleon, the French dictator, invaded Egypt. It was in 1798. He didn't have any issue with Egypt. He was not interested in it. What he wanted is to cut the British way to India, the diamond in the crown, because the ships which moved goods and people from India to Britain and vice versa came to Egypt. People went on the ground to the Red Sea, or with vehicles, with wagons, and from the Red Sea they took another ship to India. This was the way. Napoleon, when he invaded Egypt, he wanted to cut the British way to India. And this was his interest. He didn't want to do anything in Egypt itself, but this was the way how to combat the British Empire. But when the French troops came to Egypt, the first time in history, they saw how modern weapons work, because they had much more modern weapons, which the Egyptians had, or the Ottomans who were in charge of Egypt those days. They saw how the clothes of the French soldiers are made much more neatly than what they had to do, what they were doing with the fingers. Bridging is very important in Egypt because of the Nile and the parts of the Nile in the delta. in every time where the Nile is, bridges are collapsing in the delta, and it's a disaster. You cannot go from place to place. The French came with metal bridges, and metal bridges are much more stable than the stone bridges which they had until the time. So the Egyptians saw the first time modernism, which came to Egypt with the French army. Not only this, the printing machine. Printing machine works in Europe since the first quarter of the 16th century. 1523, in two places, in Germany and in Italy, people started to print. And the print is the most important vehicle to spread new ideas, modernism, because you don't have to go to place, you just print things and you send books, pamphlets, and everything which you can print in order to spread your ideas. And actually, this was the media, the first media, the printing machine. The printing machine needed almost 300 years to cross the Mediterranean Sea, although you can cross the sea within 3 days. Why? Why it took the printing machine so long? Because the clerics who are in charge of copying books and everything else objected the printing machine. The print machine everybody can print whatever he likes, even things which do not go along with the Islamic religion. So the clerics who were in charge of copying objected anything which will make printing easy, disseminating ideas to make it easy. That's why the first printing machine was bought by the French, because they couldn't care less about the clerics, and they brought to Egypt the first printing machine which printed in Arabic in 1803. 1803. Although in Europe, the printing machine worked already for 300 years almost. At the beginning, the Egyptians were afraid that looking at the pamphlets which were printed by the printing machine will make them crazy, will damage their brains, because they thought this is a deed of a Satan. Because, human beings, when he writes, you can see it's handwriting. Here they saw, all of a sudden, things which are print. And the print, it's constant, it doesn't have any differences. The print is straight, is not crooked. And they thought that this is the deed of a Satan. How can a pamphlet look like this? The print is different. To that degree, they were afraid of modernism which came. But with the time, they got used to it. Muhammad Ali, the ruler of Egypt as of 1805, started to send delegations to Europe to study mathematics, engineering, architecture, metallurgy, how to deal with metals, and all these things which he understood what we in Egypt, we can learn from the Europeans' experience, scientific experience, industrial experience, everything which they do much better than us, because we are still in Middle Ages. And he actually was the one who brought modernism to Egypt by these delegations which went to Europe to study all these things. But these delegations, during the day, they learned mathematics and physics and architecture and engineering. What did they do in the evening? They went to restaurants, they went to museums, they went to concerts, they went to the opera in order to enjoy, okay? When they came back to Egypt, after 2-3 years in France, in Spain, in Britain, everyone wrote 2 books, one about engineering, architecture, and metallurgy, and another book about how nightlife looked in Paris. How is the music in London? How is museums in Italy? Because this is what they saw. What do you think were more popular? Books about engineering or books about the nightlife of Paris? Okay? So this was another way how Egyptians in the 19th century got familiar, got the idea of there is another world beyond the Mediterranean, and it looks totally different from us. Another thing which those people in France saw, how women walk in the street without hair veil. And this is something which unknown in the Middle East, because in the Middle East, every girl since the age of 12, whenever she goes to the street, she has to have a hijab, means hair cover, because she's grown up. In France, in Britain, in Italy, women go around without any hair veil. So many of those who went to study decided this, and nobody makes an issue out of the fact that a lady goes around without a hair veil. in the Middle East is unknown. A guy named Zarlul, later he became the Prime Minister of Egypt. He was supposed to come back to Egypt in 1923 in a ship. He wrote to his wife, who was in Alexandria, please meet me in the harbor of Alexandria in this Sunday because I'm going to come with this ship. And please come without hijab. Without hijab. And she knew that it's going to be rather dangerous because she's a grown-up lady. Going around without hijab is just like a lady who will walk around San Diego, La Jolla, totally naked. This is exactly. And she knew that it will cause problems. So she called the British police, which already was in charge of Egypt, and she asked for protection. And they came, and the British were very much in favor of encouraging women to look like modern, like in Britain. So they had a ring around her in order to protect her from the people around her. And she had two or three more ladies who sided with her and also went to the street without her veil to meet Saad Zarlul, who just came from Europe, and to welcome him. This demonstration of women without hair veil in 1923, exactly 100 years ago, caused in Egypt a whole wave of demonstrations for and against these women. Okay? All of a sudden, they started these gender issues. Even beforehand, in 1899, a guy named Qasim Amin in Egypt writes a book about liberating the woman or women's slave. Now, it's not what we think women's slave. All he meant by women's slave or liberation of the women, to allow women to study mathematics or to be a secretary, whatever, in case the lady remains without supporter, either because she's divorced or because she's a widow. And since she has to cater for her children, it's better for us as a society to enable the ladies to know something so they can work in a dignifying way rather than work in a non-dignifying way. And we all understand what it means. Because if a lady needs to feed her children, she will have to feed her children. Otherwise, there is no bituach leumi, there's no social security. So in order to enable our women to work in a dignifying way, he preached to the people to enable the ladies to study. Oops, the Islamists. What? To allow the women to go out to work under the leadership of men who can blackmail them? Excuse me? What, do you want to make our daughters easy prey for the employers? Not at all. And another argument started about women learning and women working, in addition to women go without veil. And many other issues connected to medicine, connected to many other issues about the status of women, which was actually the catalyst for modernism, which infiltrated and came into the Islamic societies, starting with Egypt and spreading all over the Middle East after Egypt. Means modernism comes to the Middle East for 210, 20 years and actually challenges the two other cultures, the tribalism and the Islamic religion. And now we have many issues connected to modernism, which infiltrated into the societies. For example, and this is the most, I would say, recent and the most dangerous, is this thing. This device for us is a telephone to talk and to arrange all kinds of things connected to our daily life. In the Islamic world, this thing is viewed as a device which allows any 16-year-old girl to talk with whoever she likes, whenever she likes, about whatever she likes, to exchange pictures of herself, dressed or not, to exchange videos of herself with whoever she likes, without the supervision of anyone else in the home who can pick the other extension of the phone and to listen to what she's talking, because this is standalone. And not only this, in the Arab world, these things are sold prepaid, prepaid for the conversations. No bill comes home, because when the girl buys it from the money which she keeps from the grocery, or when she doesn't bring home the change, and she collects the money, or she babysits here and there, and she gains some money, and she buys it without permission of her parents, and it is also silent on vibrate, and she holds it on her heart, and she feels when it rotates. She goes to the room to see. Nobody knows that she has such a thing. And this is the most dangerous device on Islamic societies, because it gives independence, autonomy to a 16-year-old girl whose concepts of life are still not crystallized. And this is the most dangerous. And who invented this? The West, America, in order to destroy our societies. That's what they think. In order to corrupt our daughters, our wives. And who is standing in front of this corruption? The United States of America, which is in charge of these devices. Whether it's correct or not doesn't matter, because inventions of these devices usually come from either Motorola or other companies like this. So who is to be blamed for the deterioration of the moral values in the Islamic world? Of course, America and Europe, Israel, Australia, all the West. Means this is a cultural war against us, and we are defeated because they succeeded to infiltrate our home, to infiltrate the hearts of our daughters, and to infiltrate even into their heart. And this is the problem. And now modernism is actually fights against Islam and against tribalism, because now those girls learned from the media that getting married with your cousin might cause genetic problems to your children, and you don't want it. You want to marry somebody from afar. And this is something which undermines the stability of these societies. And this is actually the culture of today's in the Middle East. In everything, you can see the three vectors, how they pull the wagon. And then you have to hope that the wagon will remain complete, or remain one without breaking between all these horses which pull the wagon to different directions. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever you hear any news item as from today about the Middle East, try to identify these vectors, where Islam plays here, where the clan system plays here, and when and how modernism here tries to replace both. I give you a good example. We all know about the hatred between Iran and Saudi Arabia. We hear about this, and by the way, this is why Saudi Arabia makes a condition to normalize with Israel by having mutual defense treaty with the United States as a condition to promote relations with Israel, because the Saudis learned the lesson at 4 a.m. of September 14, 2019, when they were attacked, a big attack from the Iranian side, from the Houthis in Yemen, from Iraq, and this attack destroyed two major sites of oil export from Saudi Arabia. One is named Abqaiq, and one is named Kharis. And this attack, Iranian attack, paralyzed some 50% of the ability of Saudi Arabia to export oil. Big hit to the Saudis. And this, by the way, is the reason why the Saudis did not join the Abraham Accords, which they were supposed to. 3 months later, somebody got rid of Qasem Soleimani, who was behind this attack. Okay? This is what happens in the Middle East. Now, the struggle between Saudi Arabia and Iran is a clannish struggle between the Persians and Arabs, which are different clans, different tribes, different... Okay, here you see the clan system in this struggle between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Different groups. On the other side, you can see here also the Sunni-Shi'i schism, Sunni-Shi'i struggle, which is connected to religion. Okay, so here's the religious vector which pulls this. And modern things like economy, oil, and money, and hegemony, which definitely are connected to modern issues, which also play here a role. So here you see anything between Iran and Saudi Arabia is, you can detect the three components of the Middle East culture in this thing. And many other things between Israel and Hamas. On one side, different groups, Jews versus Muslims. So it's clan issue or group issue and religious issue. They look at us from the religious point of view because Israel has no right to exist, according to their interpretation of Islam, because Judaism doesn't exist anymore. Jews are not a nation. The land belongs to Islam. And Jews anyway have to live under the yoke of Islam. So since they view us through the Islamic point of view, they cannot accept us as a clan or as a group which is different from them. Yet modernism comes and tries to find solutions to all kinds of feuds and struggles. And this is where the modern issue tries to change the wars or to stop the wars, especially what Shimon Peres wanted to create in the Middle East, a new Middle East. And I highly recommend to read his book, The New Middle East, to learn how somebody based the Israeli foreign policy on hallucinations about New Middle East. Because there is no Middle East, there is no new Middle East. The Middle East is stuck in tribalism on one side and Islam on the other side. When they give up on tribalism and become individual societies here as it is here, or a society which got rid of religions, where religions do not play a role as it is here, we can talk about modernism in the Middle East. As long as they are stuck in tribalism on one side and religions on the other side, they are as far as could be from new Middle East. What should be done? How can we actually solve the problems of the Middle East? And when it comes to Israel, and this is actually the changing Middle East, how can Israel survive in such a turbulent area? In the Middle East, peace is given only to an entity which is powerful, united, consolidated, supported by others. This is part of the power, disproportionate in its reactions, invincible. They get temporary peace. In the tribal discourse, it's called Hudna. In the Islamic discourse, it's called the Peace of Hudaybiyah, because it's based on a precedent which Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, gave to the infidels of Mecca in a village named Hudaybiyah, the temporary peace. So this entity, any entity, which is powerful, invincible, dangerous, can get temporary peace from the environment. Israel, if Israel is powerful, when it will regain its deterrence, which we work on it, especially the last 2 months, and with nice success, to a degree that the Iranian leader, Khamenei, does not sleep 2 nights in a row in the same place, because he is afraid that he will join Hassan Nasrallah, Ismail Haniyeh, Sinwar, and all the other mujahideen. He is afraid, and for a good reason. They don't have any air defense in Iran after Israel took care of what they had. So if Israel succeeds to retain or to reconstruct its stability inside, its deterrence versus outside, its image as a state which is invincible state, Israel can get temporary peace from the enemies. However, if Israel will be viewed as invincible forever, Israel will enjoy temporary peace forever. This is how it works in the Middle East. The culture is different. There is no way to give Israel a permanent peace because they don't accept us, because we are a different clan and we are a different religion. And since these two horses still pull the Middle East, as long as they are as powerful as they are, Israel cannot be accepted as a country which has the right to exist, only as a country which exists thanks to its power and to deterrence, and the fact that it's supported by nations like this blessed nation. And this is actually what can be achieved. We have to adjust our expectations to the givens of the Middle East. We have to adjust our hopes to the ability of the Middle East to accept us. And there are countries, Egypt, Jordan, Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, formerly Mauritania, currently Turkey, also Islamic country, and Azerbaijan and other Islamic countries which accept us, not because they love us. They accept us because they could not get rid of Israel for 76 years. So they accept us, just like somebody who is a migrant will not chop his head, but he will accept it, okay? Because nobody cut his own head in order to get rid of migrant. Okay, so this is how they accepted us, not willingly, but with the time, because Israel showed time and again that it's very hard to eradicate Israel as they want. Okay, so this is what we are doing now. We are in a war, very problematic war, which we start We were forced to start more than 400 days ago, just to compare it to the 6-day war in 1967 or the 20-something war, 20-something days, which Yom Kippur War continued and lasted 33 days, which the first Lebanon War was in 2006. Yes, today we are in a big problem because our enemy is not an army, which you can defeat by destroying its headquarters and some units. The enemy is hiding behind women and children. In order to get rid of the enemy, you can get rid of women and children, but it's not humane. You don't do these things. We don't do these things. We try to differentiate between civilians or people who are not involved as if they're not involved and the combatants. And it's not easy at all. And this is actually what we are trying to do now in order to regain our deterrence. And the Israeli behavior, the Israeli reaction during the last 2 months definitely goes to this direction. Israel succeeded to get rid of most of the leadership of Hamas, most of the leadership of Hezbollah, and the Iranians do not have any air defense. Ladies and gentlemen, since the Israeli attack a few weeks ago, all the air defense of the Iranians is gone. Means that everyone who wants to do anything against Iran can do it freely without fear that his airplanes will be knocked down by the air defense because they don't have any. Not only this, Israel attacked the S-300 systems which were made by the Russians and given to the Iranians, and another domestic Iranian system which Israel also attacked and destroyed. Yet in Iran, there are few systems named S-400, which are much better, made by the Russians and operated by the Russians also in Iran. The Iranians thought that they will also take part in the defense against the Israeli airplanes. However, they were tremendously surprised by the fact that the Russians in Iran, who are operating the S-400 systems, did not do anything against the Israeli airplanes, which raided Iran. And the Iranians are very angry at the Russians, who did not act against the Israelis. Why didn't they? Because there is some kind of agreement between Israel and Russia. You don't hit us, we don't hit you. Means this is why Israel is able to attack Iranian targets in Syria, and lo and behold, also Iranian targets in Iran itself. Because the Russians, behind the scenes, have all kinds of agreements with the Israelis. The Iranians are furious at the Russians because they view it as a betrayal, no less. What we'll do with this, I don't know, but this is the situation today. And the ability of Israel to have an agreement with Russia, which exposed Iran, is part of Israel's power, no doubt. What happens now, the recent things, that Israel continues with the war in Lebanon against Hezbollah. Hezbollah is, I'm not saying the Hezbollah is finished. Definitely, they continue to launch missiles and drones against Israel. Yet, many people in Lebanon feel much more comfortable to criticize Hezbollah with face to the camera. They were afraid to do it until 2 months ago, or until the Beeper attack, which nobody knows who arranged it, yet people suspect that it was Israel. And now we can see how people criticize openly Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza. And apparently, if Israel continues to attack these two organizations, it might bring the end to these two organizations. Iran, surprisingly, did not interfere in the war between Israel and Gaza or Hamas, and Iran also did not support Hezbollah. Hezbollah and Hamas are furious at Iran, which did not do anything against Israel through the more than 400 years of war. Only when Israel attacks Iranians, Iran attacks Israel. Not because whatever Israel did in Gaza, not because of whatever Israel did in Lebanon. This did not push the Iranians to do anything to the Israelis. And the Lebanese, means Hezbollah and Hamas, are angry at Iran, which actually left them and abandoned them. That's how they feel. And the whole coalition between Iran and its proxies now is in a danger. Good, because this is actually what Israel is doing. What will be the future? I have no idea, because I'm not a future teller. But the trend is clear. If Israel continues to fight an all-out war against Hezbollah and Hamas, there is a chance that the Iranian coalition will dissolve, especially after January 20. And this, what happened here, is a game changer all over the Middle East. Why? If you follow the news which come from Iran during the last 4 days, riots in Iran erupted again. People are burning factories which belong to the regime. People are burning police stations, and IRGC, means the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. People are attacking clergy. Iranian people have again hope that the future will be better because they understand that will change here in January 20 will change dramatically the situation in the Middle East. Because now the administration which will replace the Biden administration will be much more sympathetic. That's what they hope, which will be much more sympathetic with the Iranian people rather than the Iranian regime. And the regime is the enemy of the Iranian people, as we see time and again in the demonstrations for how they kill their own people, how they murder girls and boys and whoever tries to demonstrate against the regime. Now there is hope in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, in Israel, in Egypt, in Jordan, Emirates, Bahrain, and especially the people of Iran. Everybody hopes that as of January 20, things in the Middle East will be different to the side of those who oppose Iran, oppose Hezbollah, oppose Hamas, oppose their proxies in Iraq and Syria, and in favor of the people of Iran, Saudi Arabia, and so forth. This might be a dramatic change in the Middle East compared to the past years. Whether it is realistic or not, I have no idea. But the hopes in the Middle East today are very high. The expectations are very high. Thank you so much.